If you were to ask my younger 12-year-old self what is the coolest thing in the world, I would have immediately, without any doubt, answered with Doom. Doom is one of the most important game franchises of all time. We all know the story about programmer John Carmack and game designer John Romero's mission to create a game that finally put in all of the elements that geek opponents from their previous works together to make the perfect FPS game. It's a game iconic beyond its time. Doom was the game that inspired and preceded many of our favorite FPS games today, like Quake, Quake 2, Half-Life, Counter-Strike, TF2, Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead, and so much more. With its timeless success, it gained a sequel that improved on basically everything and had millions of expansion packs to it, a Nintendo 64 exclusive that offered the most challenging levels yet, a 2020 reboot sequel that combined the weapons of Quake 2 and the movement of Quake 1 into one fast-paced experience, and a 2016 reboot that's quite literally the perfect entry to the series, and is probably my second favorite video game of all time, behind the very obvious of course. The franchise is even stronger today, especially with this year's announcement of the latest entry and reboot prequel, Doom: The Dark Ages. So with the franchise still going strong today and soon will be dropping a new mainline game in the series, I've been a little curious about a little title in the series I've never played before. One that was known for its darkness, its horror themes, its complete change in atmosphere. Something I've been putting off for years to play. That game, of course, is Doom 3. Doom 3 is a reboot sequel to Doom and Doom 2, released in 2004 by id Software. Doom 3 is a retelling of the original game in an action horror setting, taking place on Mars itself instead of its moons, Deimos and Phobos. It came out on the original Xbox, Mac OS, Windows XP, and Linux, and over the years saw two different expansion packs, a 2012 remaster for PS3 and Xbox 360, a 2019 remaster for modern consoles, and even a VR edition in 2021 for PSVR. Not only that, but Doom 3 also got adapted into a novelization, a mobile phone RPG, and even has loosely based and inspired the 2005 Doom movie. And even more crazier, Doom 3 was praised by critics, reviewers and audiences, and also sold 3.5 million copies worldwide, which is even more copies sold than the original Doom 1 and Doom 2 combined. So, with the fact that this single Doom game alone from 2004 was able to be this successful in both its critical and monetary gain, you'd think I would have mentioned Doom 3 earlier when talking about the sequels of the Doom games, right? Not at all. Not even in the slightest. You see, with the beginning of the 2010s and the internet being even more accessible and used by millions, people who are fans of the franchise, especially veterans who first played Doom 1 when it came out, began speaking their minds about what they, as classic fans, think about Doom 3. They didn't like it. Not one bit. For the longest time that even feels like it's going on today, Doom 3 is a very divisive game in the series, either being loved by many or hated by many due to its many changes it brought to the franchise, its over-reliance on the brand new technology, its poor execution on the story, voice acting and presentation. They found it too unbalanced, too easy, too repetitive, and many other flaws that made it set itself apart too much from the originals. I never got around to playing Doom 3 because of what people said about it. However, this year in January I saw the game was on sale for quite a low price, so I bought it one Saturday evening after going on a trip. And what did I experience? Well, I will say this. Doom 3 is quite possibly one of the best games I've played in recent memory. Not of all time, no, but compared to what I played in the last couple of years, it is awesome. Doom 3 is so underrated. It is a great 2000s FPS game, it is a great horror game for people introduced to the genre, it is a beautiful game that has some of the best aging graphics of all time, it is a wonderful story and world full of tiny and impactful details, and many interesting set pieces, concepts, and plot points. And it is quite possibly the most unique, original, and one-of-a-kind Doom sequel ever. I've been loving this game so much that I have spent 30 hours on the original version and 25 hours on the BFG Edition respectively. That's 55 hours of gameplay over 3 months. So, with that being said, what exactly is it that makes me love Doom 3 so much to the point where, even for this video when recording footage, I played the whole thing once again and found even more things to love and talk about? Let's begin with the story and setting of the game. Doom 3 takes place in the year 2145. Humanity was finally able to move on Mars, controlled and managed by the Union Aerospace Corporation, also known as the UAC, the largest corporation in the universe. You were a Marine transfer similar to the original Doom guy in the original game, most commonly known as the Doom Marine. You arrive on Mars and get assigned a task by Master Sergeant Thomas Kelly in the underground section of Mars City. Along the way, you look around the facility, get your own PDA, a personal assistant that provides emails, audio and video logs, an armor, handgun and flashlight, and most importantly, you meet the unique technology of the Mars base and all the workers of it. You happen to hear many rumors surrounding incidents at a place called Delta Labs, where employees heard and saw strange things, causing them to fall into accidents. At the same time as you land, Counselor and Representative USC's directors Elliot Swan and his bodyguard Jack Campbell land and arrive on Mars City to investigate and talk with Dr. Malcolm Petruger, the head scientist of Delta Labs. As you do your assigned tasks of going to the underground section and finding a missing scientist, you see him nervously trying to explain that the communication he is trying to send is very urgent. But suddenly, a screen transference of Delta Labs shows a malfunctioning teleporter suddenly burst and let out satanic and monstrous wave of demons from hell itself, invading the base, corrupting and destroying the whole place, turning the scientists and marines into zombies, spawning many monsters from the other dimension, and killing literally everything on sight. With you only left with a pistol against a horde of demons, your goal is to follow the orders of your sergeant through the radio, find better weapons to defend yourself, escape and run through the entire Mars bases and labs, meet any survivors left around, find out what caused the incident, what is the deal with Counselor Swan and Campbell trying to stop any and all communications to Earth, what exactly is it that the mysterious Dr. Petruger is plotting, and of course, stopping the invasion as soon as possible and making it out alive. This is quite a bunch of stuff even for a Doom game, considering that the original game only had a very simple backstory for the protagonist, and the recent titles have an even more simpler structure. But for Doom 3, the way this intro is played out and how the plot and setting are presented, it really makes you feel immersed into the world the game has created. It feels a lot like the original Half-Life, but obviously way more suspicious and mysterious than in that game. As soon as you enter, the second person you talk to is telling you to watch out. The music in the intro is very somber and makes you feel worried. The NPCs you talk to are either way too rude for no reason despite the fact they're living with one-of-a-kind technology, or too scared by the rumors of Delta Labs and even the thing they've seen in their workplace. The whole place is surrounded by the futuristic technology that gets used even for simple everyday tasks. The people in Mars City Underground are saddened to work in such a dumpy state of the workplace, and even in the intro when it's stated that the USC is above moral and legal obligation makes you feel unsettled and makes you question how exactly this invasion came to be. What was it that humanity, even after achieving peace and also the colonization of Mars, messed up for all of this to happen? Even though things may seem obvious at the start that things are going to end up bad and that Dr. Petruger is behind this operation, the game still frames itself this way to reflect the fact that despite this future being what humanity at the time absolutely wished to do, live on Mars and work amazing and fulfilling jobs in it, everyone is not as satisfied yet, and the mystery as to why demonic presences invaded the Mars space thickens. As you go through all the operative locations on Mars, read and listen to the PDA logs of survivors or victims, witness more demonic creatures the game has in store for you, having to choose between many different things in the story, and most importantly, found out exactly what was it that even in 2045, when everything seemed perfect, caused this conflict. Was it power, money, success, pure intent, an idle mind? Even though Doom 3 makes itself very obvious that it's a story similar to Half-Life with the main antagonist being revealed to be as early as in the third level, it also pictured the scene for a well-crafted, thought-provoking, and possibly bone-chilling story as you go throughout the game. And you know what? I must say, Doom 3 is one of the most immersive games from its era, all because of the fact that the details of this game are very mind-blowing, and the fact that everything plays out actually makes sense in hindsight. Each level feels like an event, each one having some sort of creative idea or aspect to it that make it stand out from the rest, either the cutscenes, the atmosphere, the level design, the enemies it holds, the video and audio logs you find throughout it, and overall makes you feel like each location you visit is important to the story. A lot of the environments in Doom 3 focus around visual and environmental storytelling, where you look around the dead bodies of the victims, read certain screens and logs for exposition, talk with any surviving humans left around, and obviously take in the atmosphere and graphics of the game. This causes each level of Doom 3 not only feel scary and tense because you may never know what else you can go up against, not only can they be even more exciting than the original games, what with them having really simple A to B structures back in their settings, and not only can show off some of the most interesting set pieces in the franchise, it also happens to be probably one of, if not the most in-depthly crafted FPS games ever. Doom 3 knows what it is, a game very different yet very faithful to the original Doom games, and because of that, it is able to freely explore so many themes and ideas the series couldn't do before. And thanks to it makes a completely intriguing world where you are interested to see more and compared to what came before it. No joke, stopping and thinking about the connections of this goofy looking Doom 2 imp to this spider-like predatory imp in Doom 3 is always so fascinating. It is a completely separate being in the series, yet it has just enough familiar elements to actually make it feel like it would come from Doom. In my opinion, the popular opinion of Doom 3 not being a Doom game is ridiculous because of this. This isn't all the story has to offer either. If you're slightly interested in the characters you meet and interact throughout the game, you'll get to see many fun and immersive storytelling things too. I won't spoil too much because I would highly recommend you find it yourself, but in short, many of the audio logs of characters in-game deepen the experience. Elliot Swan and Jack Campbell are a very great subversive reflection of your own main character in Doom games, being literal unarmored men who can still somehow defend themselves and go so far to stop the invasion as much as you do. Sergeant Kelly is an interesting character thanks to the events that the game connected to him, and a shift to a more menacing side of his actions and morals. Dr. Betruger, despite being a bit standard and excessively loud, is also really interesting in terms of a psychopathic scientist, thanks to his motivations and intelligence. And even your main character, the Doom Marine, is one of the best story iterations for the Doomslayer. His whole story and journey is one about bravery once you remember that this was his first day on a job, only had a wimpy pistol and flashlight, began from the worst place in the entire planet, and yet was able to survive on his own, not just because of the weaponry he wielded, but also because he was firm to not be scared by what he witnessed, by the military techniques he has in combat, and by the sheer strength and willpower to be able to defeat a really religiously presented depiction of hell and its demons. Doom 3 feels way more spiritual than one would think. I think it's so awesome that despite the antagonist and his army wanting to scare you so bad, you are somehow able to stay strong and untouched. And I think the perfect way to describe that feeling, that message the story of Doom 3 has to offer, is the main theme of the game composed by Tweaker. Probably one of the best metal songs I've heard in my life. So in short, despite Doom 3 not exactly having a mind-blowing story, it does have a very interesting premise, setting and characters with arcs, atmosphere, and overall theme that fits well both in the context of a horror game meant to scare you, and a Doom game meant to make you feel powerful and victorious over the demons you fight. Yeah, Kieran, we get it, Doom 3 has an interesting premise for a horror FPS game, but what about the fact that this is still Doom? What about the gameplay? I'm glad you asked, off-screen version of me even though I'm already off-screen. Let's talk about how the gameplay of Doom 3 works in its basic structure. Doom 3 sees you as a player going through about 20 or so levels in the campaign, which have a beginning, middle, and end. Throughout the levels you have multiple objectives to do, similar to the ones you'd see in Quake 2. Activate a mechanism, find PDAs and keycards to open doors, find codes for locked doors and lockers for extra equipment, deactivate harmful malfunctioning mechanisms, destroy certain threats and even operate some of the machinery, all the while you explore, backtrack, and look around the creepy environments of the ruined facilities, and most importantly, kill demons with an assortment of your weaponry. Doom 3 has a pretty interesting set of weapons that not only inspired the ones we see in the newer titles, but they also offer a lot of interesting design choices once we see how they are used in game. A long-range pistol, a close-range shotgun, a machine gun great against hit scanners, a chain gun great against beefy enemies, grenades, a chainsaw that is a very effective weapon that encourages resource management, probably because it's made by the Fatty Beavers, a rocket launcher great for headshot damage, the BFG being a wonderfully designed weapon similar to the one in Quake 2, and probably my favorite weapon in the game, the plasma rifle. A high ammo resourced, high DPS, beautifully designed in visuals and sound weapon that's great for literally any scenarios. Now, you won't exactly be using all of the weapons throughout the game, but you'll find that throughout the entire game up until the final 3 levels, all of these weapons serve a good enough purpose for what they achieve. This, combined with the ability to reload for more ammo management gameplay, and the fact you must switch weapons for right scenarios even as a quick alternative to reloading, makes the gunplay in Doom 3 very unique. Oh, and we also cannot forget about the 2 new tools added into Doom 3, the flashlight and the soul cube. The soul cube is a device that insta-kills enemies and gives you back your health and is able to be used after 5 kills, and the flashlight is a tool you use to be able to look through Doom 3's dark environments, playing an important role in the horror aspects of the game. It's a pretty controversial feature, but I really love it for what it is. It fits well with the fact we got it from the dumpiest place of the planet, alongside our weak pistol, and it's also just a great factor that plays alongside the jump scary and tension heavy parts of the game. Just like in the original game, the enemies you encounter are all unique and different to each other with their own movement sets, attack sets, health points and much more, and all vary between enemies with projectiles, hit scan and melee attacks, some which might have both. Some might be faster, some might be larger, and many other factors that can apply. Now, I am aware that the general consensus around the enemies you fight in Doom 3 is quite negative. Many Doom fans, especially veterans, hate the new demons and their designs. They were hated because they seemed too different, not vibrant, not scary, and so on. But like, am I the only one who actually really likes the redesigns of the demons in Doom 3? They are pretty much the perfect way to adapt these cartoon enemies into actual cinematic creatures. Enemies such as the Imps, Revenants, Pinkies, Mancubi and Lost Souls look really metal and are really unique for what the game has going for it, with probably my favorite redesign being the Hell Knights, which probably are one of the best looking enemies I've seen in an FPS game. These designs were so great that they have actually been transitioned into the newer titles, which is yet another piece of evidence why Doom 3 is more important than you think. That's not the only enemies we have though, since we have new enemies like the Trites and Ticks, spider enemies who swarm you and can ambush you at any given moment, Maggots and Wraiths, which are fast, leaping and teleporting enemies who do a bunch of damage close up, Cherubs, which are demonized baby and fly amalgamations which have actually terrified me the first time I saw them in the game, and my favorite, the Commandos, these big buff enemies that rush you with a tentacle punch or drain your health with an extremely overpowered chain gun. These guys are probably my new favorite enemy of the game and gave me the most jump scares. All of these enemies, despite their weakness and health, all blend together to make a very underrated set of enemies for a game like Doom 3. So yeah, despite there not being too many groundbreaking aspects in the basic gameplay, Doom 3 takes a rather modernized approach to the original formula of the 1983 original. Think about it. You collect items for progression, explore and look around environments for secrets that give you stronger items, you run around dark corridors exploring and backtracking while killing an assortment of enemies. Yeah, this is pretty much as standard of a classic Doom game as you would normally know about. However, there are a bunch of new things added onto the gameplay that makes it both faithful to the original and creates something brand new. You see, despite the previous comparison of the story being similar to Half-Life, funnily enough since this game came out in the same year as Half-Life 2, Doom 3 is actually much more of a beginner-friendly and even combat-focused experience. Half-Life 1 and 2 are pretty much known best for their platforming sequences, puzzle sequences, and even more tactical style of combat gameplay, while Doom sticks to the classic formula seen in prior id Software games. Because of this, the game lets you experience way more action combat than any other FPS game on the market at the time, and even more action than some of the most known horror games from its time. Thanks to Doom 3's lighting, presentation and environmental storytelling, it makes you feel both on edge and determined depending on what the situation is like. If there are enemies trying to get you, you either panic to kill them quickly with whatever you're holding, or you stand your ground, strategize and use the right weapon against them. If there are no enemies around, you either stay determined to keep on going and to stop this madness, or you stand there, silent, as you take in the astonishingly creepy atmosphere of this nightmarish scenario.
They can only be described as demons.
This is pretty much what can be summed up as a basic summary for the Doom 3 experience. You're going through a terrifyingly bone-chilling scenario where you're at the wrong place at the most wrong time, struggling to survive and find others to help you, facing the most disgusting and uncomfortable creatures you've ever seen, struggling to choose who you should trust and who should you follow, surviving literal near-death scenarios all the while having to run around in the dark, using all the best items on the best scenarios needed for them, and saving ammo for them, all the while staying determined and strong enough to face against the demons as an advantage. Because if you keep panicking and letting your fear build up, all of it will come back and bite you right in your rear end. And so, because of this, the revised and modernized take of the formula, a re-imaged cast of enemies and a cast of weapons, a new cinematic and darker setting that gives off a really new and original take on the franchise, the tension and choice between staying strong or crying in fear from all the jump scares and environments, the insane amount of details, It all blends in to make not only a really good game that older fans of the series can get into easily, not only a really good horror FPS game that's good for newcomers to the genres, but also just a really great Doom game. I don't know what else to say, man. Doom 3 is just standardly great. It may not be the best Doom game around, but it offers exactly what the other titles have, except very different and something new we haven't seen before. I'd much rather see a series experiment with new things rather than try to stick too much to its past roots. But even then, Doom 3 is just the right amount of faithful to the originals that it also doesn't make it a completely separate game. I think that's all I can say about why I love Doom 3 in this video, considering I try to keep Side Corner episodes shorter than my main ones. If you ask me which would be my favorite levels in Doom 3, I'd go with Recycling Sector 2 and the level in Hell. The recycling sector, you go through a waste dumping facility that's being flooded by a gas leak, all the while the game gives you many obstacles and beefy enemies to fight against, and even pitting you against a mini-boss against 3 mancubi and a bunch of cherubs. And the Hell level is not only the most religiously accurate level of the franchise, but it's also the scariest level in the game, removing your flashlight, pitting you against enemies like Hell Knights with only a shotgun, giving you only a few of the weapons in the game, and overall being a level that feels like a true love letter to the original game, considering that the gameplay and combat in this level is designed to be more fast-paced and frantic. Now, Doom 3 is obviously not perfect despite my praises. I mean, after you play the game for a while over and over again like me, once you know when jump scares will happen and where all the best items are, a lot of the tension and difficulty starts to run down. Not only that, but in general, enemies can be a bit too easy to kill. A handful of levels are way too short for their own good, the bosses are very disappointing knowing you can kill them easily, and overall it can feel like a very easy game after many playthroughs, and everything won't feel as scary once you begin to abuse the hilarious ragdoll physics the game offers. But aside from some small complaints, Doom 3 is a really unforgettable experience and probably one of my favorite video game sequels ever. If you ever feel like playing through a horror FPS or a Doom game, but didn't feel like the other options were your thing, try this one, please, you won't regret it. Be warned though, Doom 3 is a very hard game to set up if you want to play the original 2004 version, which I recommend playing over the BFG Edition. Why don't I recommend playing this version instead? Well, in short, it lessens the horror atmosphere of the game, removes many details and nerfs many areas that didn't need to be nerfed, it brightens up the game and gives you an armor-mounted flashlight, making things way less tense, it gives you too much ammo, you can't skip cutscenes, there is many glitches and bugs, and yeah. I'd only recommend playing it if you're a console player, an achievement hunter, or somehow would much prefer the experience of the BFG Edition. Although the BFG Edition does have the expansion Resurrection of Evil and The Lost Mission that give off new content and another interesting story, but despite that, I would much prefer getting a source port, patching the game to run on widescreen in 120 FPS with the expansions, and just have a more quality experience. So, in conclusion, Doom 3 is probably one of the most underrated games I've ever played. It offers a pretty memorable and thrilling experience with a brand new twist for a franchise known for sticking close to its roots throughout the years. This video may not change the opinions of many who aren't interested or just don't like the game, but for me and people who wish to know more, I'm glad I just got to be here and talk about such an overlooked gem. Doom 3 is a classic that will forever hold a place in my heart for being bold in its presentation, strong in its execution, and incredibly awesome to its core. I hope that one day something good happens to this entry of the franchise. You just wait.